For my weekend project, I'm heading down to Walmart and grabbing a storage cube. I'm going to lay it out and open it up. These cubes are so easy to do. They come with all the parts that you need. You just take them out. They got directions. You can put the dowels in, put all the pieces together. They're all labeled, so you don't have to worry about which way they go. Also, it comes with the tool, the Allen wrench that you need to put all the screws in. Actually, it's really strong, but I think there's more I can do with this project. So I grabbed some scrap plywood and I cut it out to make it where it's just a perfect size. It does overhang the edges a little bit, but that's exactly what I'm looking for. Also in the back, I want to make sure it's flush. I'm going to use my brad nailer to hold the piece down to the storage cube. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab a pallet and I'm going to cut all the pieces up. I'm going to run my saw right next to the nails, not over the nails, to cut one side. And then I'm going to go down the middle and cut it. I'm going to do this on both sides to get all the little slats that I can from this pallet. Once I get them all collected, it's time to cut the ends because I used the skill saw and I need 90-degree ends. So I'm going to use my saw, my miter saw, to get it cut. I'm also going to cut all of these pieces up into random lengths. I don't want any of the sizes to be the same. Then I'm going to go ahead and start staining. I did choose 3 different colors to stain, plus some of them I didn't stain at all. I don't need to do the sides or anything, just the tops. And you can see I'm using multiple colors here with dark, pecan, and also gunstock. The first one I'm going to put down, I'm going to use some wood glue, start at the corner on one end, and I'm going to put this piece down that has a walnut stain on it. Once I got it down, I'm going to use my brad nailer to hold it in place with a few of the brads. I'm going to put some glue down, and this one is an unstained piece because it actually has its own color. I'm going to brad nail this down, 2 brads on each side, and then I'm going to start working my way down. All of these boards are the same width, but different lengths. So every time I put a board down, I'm going to use some wood glue and the brad nails to hold it in place. Once I do get to the end though, they are going to stick over. But that is not a problem because I'm going to put a guide on the edge and I'm going to use my skill saw to then cut all the pieces that hang over. This is going to give it a nice, smooth, right angle edge. Then I'm going to take my miter saw and I'm going to cut some scrap boards, and these are going to be that go around the edges. It's going to give it a nice trim look. Last but not least, it's time to put on some polyurethane. It goes on a little bit milky, but that's okay. Once it dries, it's going to be clear and it's going to give it a great finish. Now, once I get it all on there, it's time to bring it inside and take a look at this. I love how this storage cube turned out. It's got a nice top and it looks really good decorated. That way, it's got more of a tabletop to it, more surface area to hold more items. I love it, and I hope it inspired you to go ahead and think outside the box, grab a palette, multicolored stain, and make it look nice.
First, I assembled my storage cube unit. I purchased this particular storage cube because it uses multiple pieces to make it super sturdy. Next, I set it on its side and measured the length and width of it. Then I took a trip to Home Depot. I purchased some wood and they cut it to size for me for free. Back at home, I sanded it, stained it, and let it dry. After it was dry, I sealed it with a polyacrylic. While my wood was drying, I grabbed some lockable swivel caster wheels. Make sure you purchase the appropriate amount of wheels that will hold the amount of weight you will be putting on it. Also add more wheels to distribute weight. I added 6 wheels total. I laid out the wheels, marked them, pre-drilled, and screwed in the screws. I wanted to avoid wood splitting, so I used a screwdriver instead of my drill to screw in the screws. After the wheels were attached, I flipped over the cube. Next, after the wood was dry, I applied wood glue and attached my wood to the top. After the glue was dry, I also reinforced the top by pre-drilling and adding wood screws to the 4 corners. This bench is so customizable and perfect for any style and so many uses. Need extra seating? Add some pillows. Switch out the pillows and storage cubes to change up the style. Need more cold weather gear storage? Put it in your entryway or mudroom. Need a place to store blankets? Put it at the end of your bed or in your living room. Have pet toys and supplies lying around? Store them here after playtime. You can stain the wood all sorts of colors to match your style, add foam and fabric, and have an upholstered bench, or you can add a different base other than the wheels. The possibilities are endless. I hope this inspires you to make your own easy storage bench. See you in my next video.
Grab a 3-cube storage organizer from Walmart and start to assemble it based on the instructions. Cut some upholstery foam, then start to closely staple some fabric layered with batting to the top side of the organizer. Cut any excess material, then staple the material to the sides of the organizer. Add the upholstery foam and fit the material over the foam. Make sure to tuck, wrap, and staple the material around the foam on the other side of the organizer. Tightly staple all of the corners and the sides, and lastly staple the bottom of the sides.
Grab some collapsible storage cubes from Walmart and some paint stir sticks from the hardware store. You will need about 9 to 10 paint sticks for each storage cube. Measure the width of your storage cube and then measure that same distance on a stir stick. Using a utility knife, score the measurement line. I was able to snap the end off many of my paint sticks, but did use a hand saw for some of the stubborn sticks. Make these cuts on all of your paint sticks. Once cut, sand the cut ends of the sticks so there are no rough edges. Using a clean cloth, wipe some wood stain on the top and sides of each paint stick in the stain color of your choice. Depending on how deep you want the stain color, give each paint stick 1 to 3 coats of stain. Let them dry completely. Once dry, lay the paint sticks once again on the side of an open storage cube. Don't lay them on the side with the grommet handles. Those grommets will be on the sides of your finished cube. When you have your layout, start to glue each stir stick to the storage cube panel with a hot glue gun. Your new elevated storage cube will be fantastic storage with its beautiful wood panel front. Take a fabric placemat, mine was a random placemat that I found at a thrift store, and flip it over. Using the storage cube insert, trace around the insert on the placemat with a pencil or marker. Once traced, cut the fabric square from the placemat with some sharp scissors. With a hot glue gun, glue the placemat square to the side of the open storage cube. Take some favorite yarn and make a pom-pom with a pom-pom maker. The instructions come with the pom-pom maker kit and are very easy to follow. Make sure to leave the pom-pom tails, there are 2 of them, long and intact when you make the pom-pom. Using a large needle or upholstery needle, thread one tail of the pom-pom and insert it through the upper center of the glued placemat through the storage cube. Remove the needle so the first tail is on the inside of the cube. Then thread the second pom-pom tail with the same needle and insert it near where you pushed the first tail through, and knot the 2 tails together on the inside of the storage cube. You now have a pom-pom knob for the storage cube. You can store anything you like in this whimsical but practical updated storage cube.
I picked up one of these dollar store styrofoam rings. So all I've done is I've clipped the garland, and to secure it, we're gonna take a zip tie. So I have 2 different types of berries here. So my method of using hot glue is to use a glue skillet. So now we have some mini ornaments, and all I've done is I've added a little dollop of hot glue on the bottom, and we're just gonna work them in.
Apply a generous amount of hot glue to the tray and stick a piece of styrofoam down. Take out your tree and fluff the branches. You want to keep one side of the tree rather flat and fluff up the branches toward the other side. Next, you're going to take the first tree and stick it into the side of the styrofoam. You're going to open up the 3rd and the 4th trees and use a pair of wire cutters to cut off each of the little branches from the trunks of those trees and begin building up your centerpiece with those branches. Now is where you get to have some fun and personalize your centerpiece. Finish off your arrangement by adding some Dollar Tree Christmas ornaments wherever you want a little more color.
Take any glass vase or jar container that you have and layer the bottom with a couple of inches of greenery. Angle the ends of the greenery toward the outside of the glass. Next, grab your box of plastic wrap and start crumpling it into a bunch, but I did try to shape it into a sort of level disc. The third layer consists of fresh cranberries. Take a pitcher of water and pour over the top of all the layers. You can add a tea light.
Grab some tiny little ornaments. We're going to start with these large tongue depressors. We're going to cut those in half, and then we grabbed an embroidery hoop, and we're going to take those little pieces of wood that we cut in half, and we're going to glue them at the bottom and then hot glued it to the other side. Next, I grabbed this little wood tray and I hot glued that in. Then I grabbed my little ornaments, and I also had some little stars, and I just lined them up and glued them up one side. Then I grabbed one of my flowers and I hot glued that down at the top. Then I grabbed this little pearl branch, which was super cute. Then I grabbed a ribbon. Then I added a couple more of those pieces of wood along the bottom. Then I grabbed these cute little twinkle lights that are battery operated and added those to the centerpiece.
Head to Dollar Tree and pick up 2 paper towel holders. Guide the centerpiece of the towel holder through the floral foam. Begin adding florals to the base. Stack the second paper towel holder directly on top and add more florals to it to cover the foam entirely. Take a strand of gems and attach to the top of the stacked paper towel holders. Attach it to the top of the paper towel holder base.
First, we're going to start with this 9-foot flocked garland. We're going to use some of this silver bay leaf and just work them right into the garland. Now we're going to work in some shatterproof ornaments, and we can start hot gluing these in place too. We'll just do one loop with a set of tails, and I'm just going to take that little pipe cleaner and wrap it around, and it just adds a nice little touch of ribbon.
pick up a pack of these LED pillars from Walmart, and we're gonna turn them into Pottery Barn inspired candles. I went to the craft store and I found the perfect piece of paper. I'm gonna cut it down to size, wrap it around the candle, and just secure it with a piece of tape. I'm gonna use a craft knife to trim that off. These LED pillars have a wax coating on the outside. So you're gonna grab a hairdryer or a heat gun and a piece of burlap. I'm just gonna heat up the wax until it just starts to melt. Then I'm gonna wrap the burlap around the candle and apply pressure so I can get the pattern of the burlap onto the candle. I'm gonna let this cool, and then I'm gonna add some paint. Grab a flameless candle and paint it gold. Once it's dry, I'm gonna come back in with a craft sponge and some metallic brown paint. I wanna give this candle a vintage look.
Head to Dollar Tree and pick up patterned tissue paper, glass pillar candles, and a clear bowl. Use Mod Podge and a sponge brush to apply the tissue paper to the bowl, on the back side wrapping it around the top. Take pillar candles and melt them down in a double boiler slowly. Take candle wicks and hot glue them into place on the inside of the bowl. Once the wax has melted, slowly pour it into the bowls. Once the wax dries, cut the wicks to be the appropriate size, then you can light them.
Let me show you how I turned a couple glass bowls into these Pottery Barn dupes.
Put 1 coat of spray paint and primer on the bowls. With the Rub and Buff, I was able to put on 1 layer and achieve the aged look that I wanted. Turn it over and then paint the bottom the other side of your bowls. I cut the ring off the pacifier and snapped a small piece of the shower curtain ring off and glued them. Here I used wax cubes, melted them down, and then you pour that into the bowl. For your wicks, you can get a kit off of Amazon and use the popsicle sticks with the hole to help make sure that your wicks stand up straight.
We're going to start by taping some white tissue paper onto the front of some white bond paper. Then we're going to take an image that we really like and we are going to feed this through our printer. Next, we're going to cut off the tape area and we're going to cut out each of our images so it's only the tissue paper. You're going to grab a plain white candle, any size you want, and we're going to use a heat gun. If you don't have that, you can use a blow dryer. Now we're going to grab some wax paper or some freezer paper. So the wax side you want right on top of your image. Then we take our heat gun and we keep heating it. You're going to start to see the image come through. This one, I just decided to test it out if I was just to take the heat gun and the tissue paper. That seemed to work really well. We're going to take our Santa candle and we are going to peel off that freezer paper. And then I just added the heat gun just a little more.
Saw some candles from Pottery Barn. I thought it'd be fun to try making them myself. I'm going to put a little glue into a small container and then add a bit of paint. Now that I have the glue tinted, I'm going to paint it all over the glass dish on the outside. I'm going to leave these for a few hours before moving on. Using some Mod Podge, I'm going to paint it around the dishes. I can sprinkle the white glitter all over it, and then when it dries, the glitter will stay in place. I grabbed these pillar candles from the dollar store, and I'm going to melt them down. I'm just going to use a couple of skewers to hold the wicks in place. I want to add some essential oil to give my candles a beautiful scent. It's time to fill the glass dishes. The final thing to do is to remove the skewers and then trim the wicks.
Separate the layers of a patterned paper napkin. Cut the paper napkin as needed. Now we are going to actually iron the paper napkin onto the taper. Heat and iron to medium-low heat, not too hot. Fill a heat-safe container with hot water between 100 and 110 degrees. Place a taper candle in the hot water and let sit for 10 minutes. Paraffin candle works best for this. After 10 minutes, pull the candle from the water and then wrap the candle in some wax paper. Take a rolling pin and press down on the middle of the candle. Once the middle section is flattened, take the candle and gently twist it into the shape that you want. When you get the twist that you want, place the candle in cold water and this will set the candle in its new shape. Take painter's tape and tape off sections on a taper candle. Make sure that the edges are pressed down securely on the edges of the tape. Once taped off, paint light coats of acrylic paint in the open sections of the candle in the color or colors of your choice. Let dry completely.
You want to pick up 2 bowls. Make sure they are ceramic or glass and that they are heat proof. I took them home and I'm going to give them a coat of spray paint. Once the paint is dry, these bowls have a really nice textured look. I'm just going to use some really strong glue to adhere them together. In the top bowl, I am going to add 3 wicks. I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to secure them to the bottom. Then I'm going to grab 2 wooden skewers and wrap the wick around the skewers. This is just going to hold everything in place. Great way to make your own candles is to reuse existing candle wax. I have a couple of these Dollar Tree tall pillar candles, and I'm going to place them in some boiling water. Now make sure you're wearing gloves. These can get really hot, and I'm just going to gently boil this until all the wax is melted. Pour the wax from all the candles into a metal container with a handle. I'm opting to add a little essential oil for some scent, and now we're just going to pour that melted wax. Then you're going to want to walk away for about 24 hours. When it is completely set, you can trim the wicks down and use your candle.
Go to your local dollar store and grab 1 or 2 of these light up candles. Go and grab some fake floral arrangements as well too. So what I'm doing is I'm prepping the surface. Now I'm going and cutting some of these little fake ferns. Now take your fern or whatever you're going to be sticking down onto the candle, heat it up, and then slowly start to stick it down. Now for this one, which is the dollar store one, you want to make sure that you tape the bottom. If you get any candle wax down here, it's not going to work anymore. Cut off any extra tape, go and heat up a candle, go and tape the bottom of a container. After it's taped and sealed, flip it over, go and line up the candle that you have right in the center. While that candle wax is melting, I'm going to cut some more of these little ferns, some of these berries, start to arrange everything on the sides, and then start to go and pour your candle wax. And now it needs to sit for at least 24 hours. So let's go and get this out. And this should slide right out. Clean up the sides a bit with your heat gun, let it cool down.
Grab a lemon, orange, or grapefruit and cut it in half lengthwise. Take a knife and carefully score the fruit. Scoop out all of the fruit and set aside for something to be eaten later. Take a cotton candle wick or a wood wick. Check to make sure that it can stand upright when placed inside the empty fruit skin. I was able to scoop out a mango. With any of these fruits, it is important to soak up any excess moisture from the inner skin with a towel. Pour candle wax flakes into a candle pouring pot. Place the pot into another pan or double boiler filled with a few inches of boiling water. As the wax flakes melt, stir with a wooden spoon until all is melted and you have clear liquid wax. Pour onto the bottom of a piece of fruit. Place the candle wick in its stand in the puddle of wax and hold it for a few seconds until it is able to stand on its own. You can leave it as is at this point, or you can add another layer of scent by sprinkling dried herbs. Let the wax cool and set for at least 30 minutes before you move them.
Grab yourself some candles from the dollar store. Quite simply, I'm using acrylic paint and I'm making a 5-petaled flower. I'm going to paint that up and down and all around the candle. When the flowers are dry, add in a little dot of yellow paint. And then picking up some green paint, now I've got some lavender blue paint on my palette. When you've gone all around the candle with the lavender blue, then I picked up some of the pink paint and added in a few little dots just on one side of the flower. Then, cleaning my brush, I picked up some green paint and added in a stalk. Now on my palette, I've got some orange paint and some shocking pink paint. And I'm going to make a suggestion of a tulip shape and added in a stalk and a suggestion of a leaf to each of my flowers.
We are going to paint all the ornaments with chalk paint. Grab some air dry clay, press the clay to fill all the gaps without leaving any air bubbles. After a few minutes, carefully remove the molded pieces. Do not wait until the clay is dry. You want to shape it around the curves of the ornaments. Now let the glue and the clay dry before painting it the same color as the ornament. Once the paint is dry, carefully brush some gold rub and buff over the raised detail. For the next look, we are using a light beige color. Top that off with a coat of pearly glaze. Make a tiny hole at the bottom of the ornament to feed the wire through. Fold the wire in half and string a tiny bead halfway, and then give the wire a good twist. String 3 or 4 bigger pearls onto the double wire. Now feed the wire all the way through the ornament. Wrap the wire around the neck of the ornament before replacing the cap. For our third finish, use a firm sponge to dab half of your ornament with your gold ribbon buff. Now we can add some ribbon and bows to hang our ornaments.
Grab some clear ornaments and start popping the silver tops off. Fill up a bottle with some white distilled vinegar. Spray the ornaments with the vinegar all over. While the vinegar is still wet, spray some metallic spray paint on top. Then spray another layer of vinegar over that and let it dry. While the ornaments are drying, apply some rub and buff to your ornament tops to make them look more aged and distressed.
I have these unfinished wood ornaments. Let's start by doing a base coat of white chalk style paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut her off. We're gonna need a piece of plastic, and we're gonna put the plastic on top of the wood, and then I'm going to position my paper. I'm gonna take my Teflon sheet. You can use either some parchment paper or a blank piece of tissue paper. You're gonna be applying heat and pressure in order for this to work. And I think everything is adhered. I'm gonna use a simple emery board to trim this piece. And there we are. We're gonna seal them really quickly. I'll be using Wise Owl's 1 Hour Enamel and Clear Matte.
These little Christmas ornaments are just not my style, so I decided to give them a makeover. By removing the tops and popping in a skewer, I have a way to stand them up. I want to create some texture, add in some baking soda while I'm painting them. Now that the paint's dry, I want to add a powder coating to the smooth ones. I'm going to use some clear glue and then roll the ornament in the baking soda. For the ornaments that I added the texture to, I want to do the same process, but this time I'm going to use cocoa powder to dust them. The final thing I want to do is add a little bit of metallic bronze paint. While the ornaments are drying, I want to change up the little caps that go on the top. I grabbed some glass ornaments at Michael's. I've grabbed some of my favorite molds. Before adding any clay to my molds, I want to brush them with cornstarch. I'm going to use little pieces and make sure to push it into all of the little details. I want to work with the clay while it's still wet and moldable so that I can wrap each one around the ornament. Before attaching them to the ornaments though, I want to give them some color. I'm going to use a thin layer of tacky glue to stick the clay to the glass. Now that the glue is dry, is to add some beautiful ribbon.
Baking soda and Christmas decor? You bet. First, remove the caps from the tops of the ornament balls. Mix together equal parts flour and our magic ingredient, baking soda. Next, we're going to spray paint the ornaments. After you spray paint the ornament, drench it in the flour and baking soda mixture. I advise doing this one ornament at a time and wear some gloves. It can get a little messy. After painting and dunking, let the ornaments dry. Put the cap back on the ornament. Using a small paintbrush, gently brush off the excess flour mixture.
We need to go ahead and remove the top off of the ornament. You just want a little bit of water. We're gonna add quite a bit of paint and we're gonna mix it. Move it around so it coats the entire inside of the ornament. Once we kind of get it going, we're gonna turn it upside down onto the cup and let it dry. And when it dries, you're going to end up with a navy ball or whatever color you choose, just like this. We're going to put the topper back on. We're going to use the Mod Podge. Once you have the Mod Podge on, it is time to start with the leafing. Set this one aside. I'm going to let it dry. So we're going to use this gentle paintbrush and we're going to go through and we're just going to gently tap and brush the leafing.
You won't believe how a panel of insulation material could change up my bed. I measured the length of my bed. I cut the insulation board using a razor blade. I cut the fabric and batting, leaving plenty of extra on both sides. Then I just wrapped it. I secured it using a staple gun. I used command strips with Velcro on them. I positioned the decorative side piece and simply pressed it into place. I used leftover material to create some pillows and dressed up the bed.
I started by drawing some lines onto my window, and then I started to embellish the lines, and I started to draw straight lines down the center of my window. Now it was time to draw shapes at the end of all of those straight lines. At the top of all of the lines, I made little bows, and I started to add little dots for snow all around the window.
Out some snowflake shapes that you like and cut them each out. Place your snowflake under a piece of wax paper, glittery fabric paint, and squeeze it out onto the contact paper, tracing the snowflake underneath. Let it dry for 24 hours. Coat your wax paper with some non-stick cooking spray. This will prevent your glue from sticking to the wax paper. Squeeze your hot glue onto the wax paper, tracing the design of the snowflake, and let it cool completely. Carefully peel your snowflake off the wax paper and then wash it to get the cooking spray off. Paint sparkle Mod Podge onto your snowflake. Sprinkle with glitter, let it dry completely. I bought glitter glue sticks from the Dollar Tree. Let it cool completely. Put some fishing line onto your snowflakes and they're ready to be hung.
Pick up a roll of cellophane wrap from the dollar store and then gather some rolls of toilet paper. Pull the corners and sides of the wrap around the top of the roll and tie with some fun ribbon. Paint some black eyes and a mouth, an orange carrot nose, and add some touches of white for highlights.
What I want to do is take my small tubes and I want to fold them in half and smooth out these edges. And I just want to cut off little strips of my tube until I have it all cut apart. And I want to use a piece of wax paper. Now to assemble my snowflakes, I want to start with a big dollop of glue right in the center. And then I'm going to start sticking in the edges of my paper tube. Now I want to start building up in between these sections. And now I want to add a little sparkle to my snowflake.
I picked up 3 of these bouncy balls from Dollar Tree. I'm going to start by painting these. Your best bet is going to be using a chalk paint and just apply a really thin coat. The paint does not have to be perfect. Now I grabbed 2 paint sticks. I'm just going to hot glue these together to make one long one. Now I'm taking each of those painted bouncy balls and I'm going to attach them to the paint sticks. I am using Snowtex. This is a really cool textured medium. With everything dry, I can start decorating. So I've just got some little black stones. I wanted to create a little carrot for a nose, so I used some orange polymer clay and just baked this for about 10 minutes so it becomes nice and firm. I am using a big flower pot. I'm going to use some heavy stones to help keep it in place. Now I want to add some decorations.
I saw these foil trays at the dollar store. I'm gonna start by creating a pattern out of paper. I wanna make 8 of these petals, and then I'm gonna make one a little smaller. This is gonna be the middle of my flower. Now it's time to add the petals to the cardboard circle. Bend up the edges. So I'm gonna paint them all red. I'm gonna cut out 2 leaves for each of the flowers. I'm gonna add some salt wash to the paint, and I'll mix it all in, making sure to get lots of texture. It's time to add the leaves and centers.
We're going to go and cut a stress ball in half. Now we're going to cut just about 3 to 5 pieces of this. Now what I'm cutting is I'm cutting a point to the front of this, and then at the end I'm leaving it a little bit blocky. Now that all of your petals and leaves are cut out, we're going to go and start to use some wire reinforcement. Cutting it down, leaving just about an inch, a small piece of a cut sheet of this yellow paper, and we're going to cut these little lines down. We're going to go and twist each of these cut areas, and we're going to go and lay this around the entire piece. Now we're going to go and start to glue the petals and take some more green paper. Then I went and I wrapped it with some floral tape. The largest one in the center and the 2 small ones at the sides.
I'm just going to cut the pull noodle. I've cut my craft paper. I've made sure it overlaps a little bit. I'm going to crunch it up. I am going to just rip it into strips. I'm going to take my pull noodle and I'm just going to draw around it in a circle time. I've got some tacky glue, so just a quick drop of water, and I'm going to add some glue around this top area. I'm literally going to just get to the end and pop a little bit of glue there. Add some glue to this top part here, pop that onto there. Take a couple of pieces of TP and I'm going to lightly cover my birch tree. Pull it all the way, apply a little bit of artistic license here. This. So I'm going to start thinking about making some of those little birch tree marks.
Save those cardboard boxes and make this. I started by wrapping a single sheet of cardboard in marble paper. Then I grabbed 2 rectangular boxes and I'm gonna wrap these in the brick paper. Then I'm gonna grab another square piece of cardboard and wrap that in brick as well. Now let's put it together. I've got a base, 2 sides, a back, and a mantle. Now let's decorate it. I wanna put some logs in my fireplace. Now I can just place these in my fireplace. They are pretty lightweight, so I might use some Scotch tape to keep them in place. I'm gonna grab some fairy lights, some battery operated lights. Save your pickle jars, especially the large ones. They can make beautiful seasonal decor. Put it in a bath of warm, soapy water. Make sure you get that pickle odor out of there. Take that label right off. Start by grabbing a roll of contact paper. Cut out a little star shape, and I'm just gonna trace it onto the contact paper. And I'm gonna cut out about a dozen stars in different sizes. Peel the back off and place them all around your pickle jar. Once all the stars are placed, it's time to paint this. We are going to use a frosted glass spray paint. So once you've got 2 coats on there, grab a tweezer and we're gonna pull off those stars right away. I'm gonna use some rope from the dollar store and a Christmas sprig with some red berries and some green leaves. Once all the embellishments are on, I'm gonna use a battery-powered tea light to drop on the inside.
Paint this with White as Owl's chalk synthesis paint and antique Via. So I've painted around the entire box, right? Recycled trolley crate decoupage paper is what we're gonna be using today. I'm gonna take this plastic wrap and I'm just gonna like ball it up and make myself like a little pad. I'm gonna do this in sections. So I'm gonna put this first row down. Now I'm gonna have a few wrinkles, but I'm not gonna stress about those because once the paper dries, those wrinkles will go away. Fold this back and do the next section. Let's get the rest of this decoupaged. We painted in a little bit on the insides of these. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little product along here and I'm gonna fold this paper over. So I'm just gonna go along the corner here and I'm able to trim both pieces of paper at the same time. I'm just gonna kind of decoupage it and lay it down and it's barely noticeable. And decoupage these bottom flaps down under my box.
Just take that long tube that you got from the wrapping paper and you're going to cut it right in half. Here's our paper towel holder. We're going to just keep cutting tubes until we go all the way up to the top of our tree. Once we got all of those cut out, Let's put the trunk on. Next, we're gonna grab some fabric. This fabric's gonna roll over the tube. Once you get that cut out, run you a bead of hot glue down the cardboard tube. Roll the tube right into place. On the outside, just put a bead of glue and just start tucking it in. Once we got at least 2 tubes that are covered in the fabric, run a bead of glue, put these 2 tubes together, just keep on going, and I use some burlap also in there to intermingle. Last but not least, look at that trunk. Let's grab us a paint stick, put some glue on the backside, turn it over, and that is going to get pressed onto the fabric and it's going to give it some stiffness. Now we're going to flip it back over. It's time to decorate.
Paint this inside part with some dark blue acrylic paint. Once this was dry, I've cut the edges of the plate off. Got here some copper acrylic paint. I'm going to stencil through. So once it was dry, I took a pencil and drew around the contours of this stencil, and now I'm cutting it out. I have some just regular Elmer's glue, and I'm going to add to that some glitter and paint it all over my snowflake. Leave that to dry. I'm going to put a little dab of glue and then stick it on my snowflake.
Pick up 6 clear plastic punch bowls from Dollar Tree. Cut a round hole in the bottom of each punch bowl and then glue the bowls together top to top with hot glue. Take the 6 attached bowls and then glue the bases of the bowls together so that you have 3 bowl balls stacked vertically. Take an LED fairy light strand, wrap the string lights around a wood dowel and thread them through the center holes. Distribute the fairy lights into each bowl. Place the bowl stack on top of a planter of choice. Hot glue the bow. Head to Dollar Tree and pick up 2 paper towel holders. Guide the centerpiece of the towel holder through the floral foam. Begin adding florals to the base. Stack the second paper towel holder directly on top and add more florals to it to cover the foam entirely. Take a strand of gems and attach to the top of the stacked paper towel holders. Attach it to the top of the paper towel holder base.
Open the tea light package and remove your tea lights. Pull gently on the wick. Place as many tea lights as you think you need in the saucepan and bring the water to a boil. Pour enough wax on the parchment paper to surround your cookie cutter, and then set your cookie cutter on the wax and press down. Fill in the cookie cutters almost to the very top. Now the wicks on the Dollar Tree tea lights are really short, so I waited to add them to the top layer of the wax. I added the faux snow to the melted wax and poured that onto the very top layer. You can pop off the excess wax. Place my cookie cutters on a Pyrex pie plate. I took a length of garland and made it into a wreath shape.
Let me show you how I turned a couple glass bowls into these Pottery Barn dupes.
Put 1 coat of spray paint and primer on the bowls. With the Rub and Buff, I was able to put on 1 layer and achieve the aged look that I wanted. Turn it over and then paint the bottom the other side of your bowls. I cut the ring off the pacifier and snapped a small piece of the shower curtain ring off and glued them. Here I used wax cubes, melted them down, and then you pour that into the bowl. For your wicks, you can get a kit off of Amazon and use the popsicle sticks with the hole to help make sure that your wicks stand up straight.